And you're right that like cryptocurrency industry is deeply incestuous. And all of these entities are tied together in these absurd ways and via these lending agreements. Actually, speaking about lending agreements, there's another part of this lawsuit, which I think is going to end up overlooked by a lot of people, that I thought was quite important. So Celsius ended up with a pretty massive hole in their books because they were doing very shoddy accounting. They logged the liabilities that they were going to owe customers who wanted to get paid interest in dollars, and then crypto prices went up, and they forgot to mark to market, and they had been giving out a bunch of those crypto assets to this one guy to send into random yield farms. And so then when people tried to withdraw, Celsius had to go back and buy more Ethereum and stuff on the open market at a higher price than their customers deposited at in order to function. During this period, to make this work, Celsius started taking loans. Well, and they were taking loans before this too. Several of these appear to be, based on point 80 in the lawsuit, Cell token collateralized loans, where lenders agreed to give out loans against Celsius token to Celsius so that Celsius could cover a hole in their books caused by their own flawed accounting. Now, this wasn't the only loan they ended up taking, because the lawsuit also claims that the loan that Celsius ended up getting from Tether was negotiated effectively as like a bailout, as Tether trying to find a way to keep Celsius solvent. You may remember Tether being the lead investor in Celsius's Series A equity round, which is very similar to allegations that came out around December 2020 about Babel Finance in China. Is that they had started to leverage their customer deposits in order to make more money, that they ended up in a position where they were overcommitted and didn't have the liquidity to handle more withdrawals. And so they were able to negotiate a bailout from Tether under special loan terms that gave them enough time to be able to get through that. Since then, now, in more recent times, Babel has also had to shut off withdrawals, as has Celsius, this other one that got this loan from Tether. And so the behaviors of Babel, allegedly, and Celsius, allegedly, and the involvement of Tether in both, in allegedly, very similar manners, is just endlessly fascinating to me, and really points to kind of the same kind of thing you're talking about. This was deeply incestuous. Celsius is a lending platform, and like lenders were taking their native token to lend them more things so they could keep functioning. And it's just, a lot of critics talk about how market cap and stuff and a lot of the money values in crypto aren't actually what they seem, because the liquidity isn't really there and the numbers are artificially inflated. And this is an example of how dangerous artificially inflated numbers become when people don't pause and wonder, what if this is artificially inflated? What if the liquidity leaves? What if the confidence is shaken? And so then lenders extend loans against Cell token, and Cell token starts to collapse, and Celsius starts to collapse. And Three Arrows Capital runs out of liquidity because they decided to make a levered play into a staked Ether derivative. It's absurd and it's stupid. And when it starts to go, you're right, it can kind of just unwind all at once and start to collapse, hopefully clearing out a lot of the assholes.
There's always more, though. It's just such a magnificently stupid point, and beautiful point, I want to say, but such a stupid point in that I want people to fully comprehend what Bennett is expressing here. And we have gone over this before. The leverage isn't even fully expressed when you say like leverage. When people talk about leverage, they talk about being able to get 2 to 100x leverage on a purchase of a dumb token or whatever at BitMEX, right? Like this is what people talk about when they talk about leverage. When we talk about leverage, we're not just talking about leverage. We're talking about the idea that you're both investing in a company and then like lending them money at the same time and then getting interest payments back, but you have equity in the company that you're getting interest payments back from. Like, it's all a confluence of bullshit and it's gross. It's gross. Invest is always gross. It's very gross in finance, because what we have here is a bunch of companies that are propping each other up repeatedly. And like you said, the unwind isn't just like a gentle unwind of like a bunch of gross assets, and that has its own issues and murkiness and problems. But this is a quick, slick, fast, ridiculous unwind where everything depends on everything else. So as soon as 3 Arrows Capital goes under, Celsius is fucked. And then Voyager is fucked. And then FTX is lending billions of dollars out to everybody. And so CZ is saying, oh, we can lend out money. And Justin Sun is now saying he can lend out billions of dollars to everyone. Okay, I guess. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I guess we'll find out if these people can actually do it, because they're saying it because they probably are going to need to at least take on hundreds of millions of dollars to sustain the collapsing system. Much like the US government did in 2008, they're going to try to do it privately and without taxpayer support. And I wish them luck. Good luck, guys.
JP Morgan in the 1920s, right?
Sure.
Well, it's exactly what you're saying. And then even the stablecoins themselves often act as kind of a type of leverage, right? Like Tether is partially backed by secured loans, which are collateralized by Bitcoin. They extend Tether-denominated loans so that entities like Celsius and Nexo can lend Tethers out so they can be used to purchase more cryptocurrencies. Tether itself is backed by Bitcoin, and then other stablecoins like DAI are entirely a credit-based model where they're almost entirely used for that kind of levering up, right? You deposit your Ether so you can get DAI, so you can buy more Ether, so you can deposit it and get more DAI and lever up that way. And so there's many places where that leverage is embedded, and you think with something like DAI, it's public, you've got time to get your collateral in, but then sometimes you don't, like we saw with Celsius, and we talked about this a little bit when Dirty Bubble Media was on. Like their DAI position ended up in danger because their other loans were being actively liquidated, and they were having trouble getting enough liquidity to buy enough DAI to pay down the loan and avoid that position from getting liquidated. And so even loans that seem secure, seem adequately collateralized, can very quickly become inadequately collateralized and unsafe, especially if there's other people in the space who are extending loans against similar assets that have liquidation points at a similar level. One liquidates and pushes below the liquidation point of another, and you start to see the cascading liquidations. And so fundamentally, what I hope this massive leverage washout in crypto does is it eliminates a lot of the actors who've been using that really irresponsibly, and hopefully starts to shift the culture away from one that is so predisposed towards focusing just on trying to eke out every bit of manufactured money from the retail investors who you're trying to attract on your podcast, right? Like it's a bad world where FTX brings on the head trader of FTX's CEO's trading firm, and they go, yeah, we go against retail. We want to take money from retail. And
to be clear, I don't think she even fully comprehended what she was saying when she said that. Like, the guy was just saying, like, who's doing this with you guys? And she's like, I'm not sure, but I think it's like retail. And you're just like, so you're just scalping retail. You're just fucking scalping retail.
Well, it's what SBF said on Odd Lots, right? We put the money in the box, everyone else follows in and puts their money in the box, and then we take out our money and most of their money too, right? They tell you what they're doing. They're telling you exactly what they want to do to exploit you, and you can see that these are not honest actors. These are not good actors. That's what the overwhelming amount of evidence about cryptocurrency actors has shown. That's not to say there aren't good actors. That's not to say there aren't good people in cryptocurrency. Just that there's so many of these entities that are so absolutely mercenary and so absolutely focused on eking out every possible cent of profit.
It is outside the scope of cryptocurrency. I want to be clear. This is a finance issue. This is a finance issue. This is a finance issue. I want to repeat it over and over again so people understand we aren't just strictly focused on this. We are focused on finance. This is not like day
traders get blown up too.
But this is a greed issue. This is a never enough issue. This is outside the scope. Far outside the scope of cryptocurrency, and we understand that, and we're not going to deny that. But our main point that we've been focused on for all of this time has been cryptocurrency. So I think it's like, we know that this exists outside of cryptocurrency. We know that banks aren't the best entities in the world. You know, we know Social Security is weird, and we understand all of that. We're not denying that. It's about where you can make dramatic change right now. So we appreciate everybody saying that there are problems outside the scope of cryptocurrency and contagion in regard to Celsius and these lending platforms and Tether. You're right. We're not denying that. But yeah, I